Welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Ben Luters, founder and art director of Fruitful Design and Strategy, and I'm joined by my business partner and brand strategist, Raj Lula. Today, we're kind of in different surroundings, you may have noticed, and some of you faithful listeners might have also noticed that we haven't come out with a new episode in over a month. And needless to say, there's been some changes over at Fruitful. We just want to get into those today. So, Raj, how should we start this episode?
Yeah, well, I mean, the most obvious change is for you watching on video. I'm obviously in my mountain chalet here, and this is the cozy edition.
It's very rustic.
Growing a Fruitful Brand. Now, this is my house. This is the fireplace in my basement. Yeah, so
and
I mean,
I'm in some like YouTube studio with my like blue lights and my little glowy ball, my crystal ball back there.
Yeah. No, Ben's also in his basement because that is what fathers do. They give up the good rooms to their kids, and then they take the damp and cold rooms for themselves. Big changes for us. We recently went fully remote, and that's probably just a temporary thing. But as we talked about with our 30-day brand sprints, we are wanting to be in person with customers more, and often that means at their places. And so, it didn't make quite as much sense for us to have a large office space. We had, about half of our team was remote at the time, and so it just didn't make sense for us. So that's one change. Speaking of team, the other big change is that at the end of the year, we transitioned all of our team to 1099. And for some folks, that meant that they went and found other full-time work. In fact, we're really proud of some of the places that those folks have landed. And then for others, that means that we're still working with them on a contract basis, but then they have the freedom to work with other people as well. And that just made it easier for us to make a predictable business model that would be healthy for everybody. And I know it's easy to say that, or to kind of sound like, more predictable and beneficial model for you. It's like, because you didn't get switched to 1099. But the truth is that our business changed after 2020. The last 4 years.
Some of those changes, were kind of out of our control. But then some of them were in our control. And so it was kind of a mix of things where there were some outside effects, some things that happened with some clients of ours and some revenue that changed. But then there was also just some personal choice and personal preference as far as like the kind of business we want to be and the kind of work we want to be doing. And so those things kind of work together to where we are right now and kind of where we're headed.
Yeah. Our friend Jason Rothfuss, I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but he says something to the effect of, $1 million business is the worst place to be in business. And, one of the reasons that he says that is that, it sounds really great. It's an amazing vanity metric to make it to seven figures. And I am proud of us.
It was such a big goal of ours. We we wanted to get there, so bad. Then you get there and it's like, oh crap, now what? Which direction are we going to go?
Yeah. And the reason is that when you get to that point, it takes so much to maintain staying at that point and to grow beyond it that you essentially either have to, take on debt, take on massive risk, or decide not to grow beyond that point. And because it's really hard to maintain for whatever reason. This business was really comfortable at about 750,000, and it probably would be really comfortable at 2 million. But that range in between the 1 to 1.3, just a really, really difficult thing because you have to staff up to maintain the level of quality that you're getting. Or you have to, I don't even know what that's.
Well, not just staffing up, but like you also, at least this is kind of where we were, is like we were staffing up, but also feeling like we had to do a ton of different things, right? Yep. Like, it was the opposite of like niching down, like people are saying to do. It's like feeling like crap. Now we're gonna have to do, be full service in order to be at this level and to continue to grow. And of course, inevitably, and this is like we're not the first ones to discover this, but what ends up happening is owners, leaders like Raj and I, our life starts turning into mainly management, internal meetings, and a lot of the stuff that got us into this creative field in the first place, like actually doing the creative work of either design or strategy, working with the clients. A lot of that stuff starts getting, delegated out to others, and it gets harder and harder to protect that. And you're trying to keep your team busy and trying to keep them creative and them fulfilled. And just to be honest, like that was really hard. It was really hard for me. I imagine it was hard for you too.
Yeah. The advice that we were getting, especially as we approached $1 million, was that we needed to do a handful of things. One was to find recurring revenue products. That was something that was really impressed upon us. And then the other thing, honestly, was that there was just a lot of pressure to grow. There were voices kind of asking, like, are you guys serious about being a business even? And
your tagline is literally grow something good. So, it was staring at us in the face every day.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, I will say is that, last year, or I guess this year, is 7 years of me being on here. And so most employees have a natural 7-year itch. Most people have a 7-year itch when it gets to your house and, should we move up or that kind of thing, even marriage, all that. And so there were some things that kind of coincided here of I had kind of closed the first chapter of my leadership of Fruitful. In fact, it wasn't even until, last fall that you and I officially, named me as managing partner, even though for really the entirety of that time, except for the brief time that we had someone else managing, I was the managing partner, but
you were the secret managing partner, and that was an invisible ink on his business card. And so you had to hold it in a special light to see that. But
yeah. And the thing about that is that, and we've talked about this before, I think on another episode, but there was just enough friction of that being secret. In fact, we would sometimes use term like de facto CEO.
Sure.
There was just enough friction where it kept me from ever really truly making the decisions I thought were right. It was always making proposals to you, and you were always super receptive to them, but it was like having to convince somebody else of things that I was pretty sure was right. And that just, it added friction to that part of it. And in addition to a company that's growing, we 4x'd in 5 years. We went from about 250,000 to about $1 million in about 5 years. And so like to do that and have some friction in the process of who's really in charge, because you and I are equal partners, and that's something I would never change. But it did come with a little bit of uncertainty of who's setting the direction. And then we were growing up at the same time too. We both had young kids when we started. Now most of our kids are, middle elementary. You've got a couple younger than me, but
I've got a new wave.
Yeah. You're building the bench. I'm not. But that friction was felt my way too. Cause
it wasn't like I really wanted to be that guy either. I wanted to be designing things and creating things. And you see this happen in marriages too, where of course you're equal leaders of your family, husband and wife, both partners. But still someone's going to have to take that initiative to lead sometimes. And someone's going to have to, you know what I mean? If you're both in a dance, if you're both always kind of waiting for the other one, it just, things get paralyzed in indecision. You lose a lot of that energy that you need to kind of to move things forward. And so I feel like when we finally just got over ourselves and named you managing partner, I feel like there's just been a tremendous clarity in roles and speed and efficiency of things. And and it's not I don't feel pushed to the side or relegated, or that you still ask my opinion on things, or we still sync up on stuff. But it's just, there's something that comes with kind of saying those things out loud, making something official, that you kind of live into that thing. You kind of speak it into existence in a way.
Yeah, well, and just on a very practical level, and I will say too, again, just to honor the relationship, it's you're the founding partner, and so I think for my first several years, there's sort of this assumption that Ben knows what this is better than I do. And so I need to be paying attention to what you say the DNA of the company is. And I think that there's an amount of that was true. And then there's an amount of it that, just like a marriage or any other like important partnership, there's this sense that what we are together is different from what we were separately. It's, it's greater than the sum of its parts. And so rather than immediately, as we became partners in 2017, going on kind of a journey of discovery of saying, okay, we know what we were separately, but what are we together? It was, I sort of just immediately took the backseat, and that wasn't something you asked me to do. It wasn't our incorporating documents, but it was a formality at that point, the way that we did it, but it was an important formality. And so I just just took the backseat and said, okay, Ben knows what this is, and my job is to make it run well. And what we discovered over time is that, what this is together is different from the thing that I joined. It's kind of like when you have a second kid and, it's like, well, you think what it's like to have a kid, but what you don't know what it's like is how to have two kids. And like that kid is entering a different family from the one that your first kid entered, because your first kid entered a family that only had parents, and then your second kid
and your second kid could be very different than your first kid too. And so like there's a lot of there's a lot of differences, and they kind of compound a bit.
Yeah. So I'd love to kind of talk about this from a few different angles. One, I'd love to talk about what's actually kind of changed in the business, and then we'll talk about employees and that kind of structure. And then we'll probably talk about some future stuff, like what does it look like going from here. One thing I'd like to say just kind of right off the bat is when our friends Mike and Kristen Decay from Grain and Mortar talked to us about this experience, we kind of confessed to them that when we saw them go through a similar change, that it was like, oh gosh, are they closing? And so I want to just say it really clearly. It's like the rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Yes, I know that giving up office space and going remote for a minute may have an appearance of that, but no, the opposite is actually really true. We've got a really healthy model for this year. We've got great clients. There's a bunch of people in the queue right now, excited to work with us, and I think part of that is because we've been so much clearer about what we do. It's funny, not in a comical way, but it's ironic that when we were bigger and had more to offer, people knew less what to come to us for, and that is just one of the weird, things about business, is that when you get super clear and maybe even more narrow about what you offer, people start waking up. I had a friend who, I don't know if we'll end up working together or not, but I had a friend who I've been friends with for more than 20 years, knows exactly where I work, has a pretty good idea of what I do. And when we released the idea of the 30-day brand sprint, he texted me over Christmas and he goes, I think my company might need this. 20 years, man, like 20 years I've known this guy. Never asked very much about, we talk about work, but never even hinted at inquiring of us working for him. And then we do the 30-day brand sprint idea, and he goes, yes, speed, quality. That's what a business like ours needs. And so that's
what
I've
seen it too, man. Like I've had I think 3 people, like past clients are like, hey, I hear you guys are doing this 30-day brand sprint thing, so I don't know if this little thing really fits that anymore. I've had that. And then also in the same time, and one of the same people was like, hey, I don't know if you're going to want to do this kind of work anymore, but we might want to do a 30-day brand sprint with you guys later this year for something else. And so the word kind of gets out, and it's like when you really, really focus, it's just funny how it's easier for people to know and remember what you do. It's kind of like a little bit like the bowling ball thing that Donald Miller talks about. It's like you give people too many things to try to hold at one time, and it's hard for them to like, okay, what do you do again? Like, what are you known for? And you see this in other industries. When you really focus down, it gets easier for people to remember your work and remember, like, hey, when you need that specific thing, who are you going to call? And if you do a million different things, it's kind of like, okay, what are you really good at? Like, what is your best? What is the best thing I'm going to get out of you? And so, that's been pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about that. What are the things that we do, Ben?
We do branding and websites really fast, basically. And so, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's just, it's Raj and I, and we have contractors obviously that we can pull in. Raj heads up the strategy. I head up the design, and together we are doing these 30-day brand sprints where we transform your visual branding, your messaging, and through StoryBrand, and put together a website and a brand in 30 days. And we do them one at a time. And so that's we're actually wrapping up one of those today, which is super super exciting. And just like we talked about end of last year, like it's just as exciting and fun and satisfying and fulfilling as we hoped.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was a great way of saying it. That's exactly what I'd say. The only other thing I would add is that some folks are only on the messaging part right now. Like if you need help with just that before you're even ready to talk about branding our website, that's something that
Right.
There are little pieces of these things that are still available. But yeah, I mean in terms of our bread and butter, what we do for people is these 30-day brand sprints. We come in, clean up your brand or give you a new brand, and get your messaging right and do a Squarespace website for you in 30 days. And you work directly with me and Ben, and it's on site whenever possible. Our first one got snowed out, but we did it virtually. I definitely prefer to do them in person, but the team over at CFOS or CFO Systems was really, really great about being flexible and getting virtual. And we got a ton done that first day. And yeah, that's what we do for folks. And then we're also helping, still honored to be working with Children's Hospital on some of their well-being initiatives and some other great folks in the metro. But our main thing is these 30-day brand sprints, and just so amazed to see people go through this process. One of my favorite comments that we get is, how much extra does it cost to do it this way? Like, because people have such a premium experience getting direct access to owners. We've both been doing this for about 10 years now. And we've both been doing our craft for longer than that, just at different places. Mm-hmm. And so there's just such a great rhythm to it. There's so much energy to it. And, we've been trying for a long, long time to kill what we called the last mile problem, where websites get drugged down into minutia at the end, spell check and the GoDaddy password that some intern from 3 years ago had, and all those things. And that we've just gotten really, really good at solving those. And honestly, I think it's great for the client too, because they know that getting it wrapped up in 30 days is really important to them also. And so there aren't weeks and weeks of waiting on an email to give feedback. We hop on calls all the time now. It's like, and they don't have to be an hour long even. Just like, no, hey, we're available for you because you're our only client at this time doing a website project.
Yeah, that's what's really fun is like you feel this, this real kinship with the client. At least, I had been somewhat removed from that as I was kind of leading my creative team. Raj would be more client facing, and then I would just be working kind of in the background. And a lot of that's changed. Like I get up and there's I've got emails from the client in my inbox, but I'm not stressed though, because this is the one that I'm working on. And it's like if this is my team right now is basically this client, and they're excited. They're trying to hit the deadline as well. There's just an energy, a collaboration that happens. And, it's really unique. It's really special. And I'm designing, which is really a lot of fun. That was something that, I identified in the last few years of as much as I've had an amazing team to lead, and I've learned a lot about leading creative people and creative teams, and have great friendships with my team still, and I'm actually still contracting with some of them right now as contractors. I really was missing just doing more of the actual designing of things and the actual building of things, because that's what got me into this in the first place. And to really simplify the process And not just for the sake of simplification. Like Raj said, kind of at the top, it's like, this is actually a better business decision for us. Like this, we have profitability more in mind as well. Like this is going to be, I think, a much better, much more sustainable solution, because, you know, you hit that $1 million mark or whatever, but it's like the expenses to sustain that are about $1 million. You know, it's like, it's not the best, most profitable spot. And so getting out of our, you know, expensive office space and getting out of a lot of things that were really bogging us down financially, and freeing us up to just do the thing that we really love, and then, you know, bring in contractors to kind of help in the things that, you know, maybe we aren't our favorite and would help things be more efficient. Feels great. Feels really good.
And I want to say too, I mean, not only is it better for us, it's in our kind of intro, right? We talk about, you know, for you, for your customers and your employees. and so like, this is better for us. It's way better for our customers. To your point of, there were entire projects that you didn't personally design on, in previous years. And we
There's
had great
entire clients I've never met.
Yeah. Yep. And
I don't like
you
that.
know,
That's
again,
not right.
we had great designers on our team, so there's nothing wrong with the product that was being delivered. I stand by everything that we've made, but there is something really special about us working together on these things.
Yeah.
And you know, that's ultimately what you and I wanted to do, was just to get back to working on those things. And one thing that has been a great benefit of going a little smaller, and we're not talking dramatically smaller, to be honest. We don't know what the exact revenue total for the end of the year is going to be. Otherwise, I'd be pretty open with you about it. But we're not talking necessarily dramatically smaller, but we are talking about just a completely different and better structure, building a different model. And one of the benefits of it is that I'm not spending all of my time chasing long close, you know, multi-six-figure dollar sales to try to keep enough money in the boat for $1 million plus agency with a decent sized staff. And so I actually not only have, you know, more attention for the customers, but I literally just have more time for them. And so this is truly better for everybody who works with us. And I'm so thankful for both ourselves and for our customers that we found this model. Now, I do want to confess something in this whole thing, just to be transparent and also to tell you about how we're kind of making decisions around here. The one thing that we've had to sacrifice in all of this is we've just decided not to worry about recurring revenue right now. And that's a little bit of a risk. Like, there are people who heard that right now and just cringed, because they're like, oh my gosh, how? Like, that's so scary. A lot of our website customers don't come back for several years because we serve them so well right now that it's 3, 4, 5 years before they think, we could use a little freshen up. And that's okay with us. Like, it's honestly really okay. There are only a couple of things that we are offering as recurring revenue, and they are very small compared to, to what we were offering before in ongoing marketing services and that kind of thing. We are offering website maintenance. So, for a few $100s a month, we will make changes to your website. Squarespace websites are super easy to edit, but if you just want somebody else who's got the professional skill and experience to do it for you, because you don't have the time or the interest to do it, totally great. We're happy to do that. The other thing is we are requiring this year that everybody sign up for the accessibility widget that we offer. But I will say we only make like $10 or $20 on that every month. It's not going to send our kids to college. It is simply because it's the right thing to do, and because people are starting to get sued, for not having accessibility on their websites. Those are the only things we're doing right now. There might be a recurring revenue product for us in the future. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but we decided to give up on the advice that people were giving us of what would make our business worth selling. The idea of treating your business like you're going to sell it, even if you're not going to sell it. And we decided to just cut it all the way down to our core value of being fruitful, making other people fruitful. Those aren't even our written down core values. It's just our DNA. And it's like, this is who we're going to be. And we are willing to accept the risk for our clients. We're willing to accept the risk and say, hey, we don't know how we're going to take money off the board every month, but what we do know is that every single month, as long as people will continue to trust in us to make amazing brands and amazing websites for them with amazing messaging, then we will do that and we'll take on the risk. We'll worry about the recurring revenue because we're going to be smart. We're going to protect our margins. We're going to make sure that we've got some cash in the bank so that if there's a month where a project doesn't show up, we're not sweating it. In fact, that's probably a great time to take the family on vacation, and then we'll come back refreshed, ready to hit the next one with somebody and give them a great experience too.
Raj, you hit on something there that I think is worth lingering on for a moment. And that is this idea of, and some of it's just from, advice that you maybe get from podcasts or videos and from actual people and advisors.
And there's systems too, like EOS or some of those things that
They're trying to show you that, like, hey, you need to build this thing up so that you can sell. Like, that's the thing, is the exit is the big thing. And, document all your processes, and then you'll find a buyer, and not to, like, that's not necessarily bad advice for certain people in certain industries. And maybe that is us at some point. But I have felt a lot of freedom in just putting that to rest a little bit. And, like, let's just love our company and do our best work now. We're young. I think we started just thinking like, man, we're like thinking like we're retiring and trying to think of who's our replacement and all this stuff. And it's like, I think in some industries that makes more sense. If you built like an amazing tech product or recurring thing, and you don't want to have to manage that thing forever, you built this great thing that just on its own has just a lot of value, and that is the company, right? And someone else can sell it just as well as you. Like, those kind of things do make a lot of sense. I think one of the things that you and I kind of realize, and this is not just to toot our horn, but I just think it's just true, is I think that you and I are kind of the product. Like Raj and Ben, like that is kind of the magic. And the moment that we sell and exit the company, I just don't see that as being a super, super like attainable thing. Like, I don't think that is really where we are right now or where we want to go. Cause we started building that thing. And to be honest, it was really challenging and not a lot of fun. And so I think maybe if there's any kind of like moral in that whole thing, is people are going to give you advice, on how to run your company, on what you need to do. And we've sought a lot of great advice from different folks. We've even asked people to help lead our company at different times. And some of the advice that we've received has been absolutely phenomenal and has really changed our lives. Like Raj mentioned, Mike and Kristen at Grain and Mortar, like their advice to us with perfect advice, the right time. But then there's been other things that people have told us where you just have to know yourself, know your company, know where you're headed, and be like, you know what? I appreciate that. That was probably great advice for someone else. That's not us. We're not going to do that. It's similar to like our ownership. The way that we did our ownership. So many people told me, never share ownership. It doesn't matter who this guy is. And I've never regretted that once in my life, disregarding that advice.
And the great thing about this whole thing, the great irony in it is that by building a company that we love, that is the only path for us to building a company where it's probably not the company itself that would be worth selling, but our processes are so much better right now because we're working in each project ourselves, and we are noticing where the gaps are, and we're the most experienced we've ever been in doing these kinds of projects. That there's been several things where you've come in where there's a template or something that an employee has created, and it was good. But then you're like, oh, with the 10 years experience I have doing this, here's some changes I would make. I even noticed one on our site maps the other day that you literally just moved something to the left and it made it easier to read. And it's like, yeah, that's the touch. That is that experienced wisdom. I'm
glad you noticed that. I think that was yesterday.
It was awesome.
I actually rebuilt that template yesterday.
Yeah, it was great. And it made it easier to read and understand. And I just think that's brilliant. And so the things that will be worth buying from this company are the processes, the IP that we're creating, if anything is. And, or maybe it's the book that we write about how to run a branding agency after, we decide we're done with this. The only thing I know is that, making this change is what gets me from year 7 to year 17. That like, I love what we're doing so much now, and our clients love it so much. And, I've heard phrases from customers like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that we wasted money with that other agency." And that's no shade on anybody else. I don't even know what they did with the other agency, but just knowing that they're having that great of an experience with us, that is absolutely why I do this, because we want to give more than we take in these relationships. And we want to make sure that it's well worth it for them. They should feel like they're planting a seed in the ground and they're getting a whole harvest from it. And that seems to be exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, well said, Raj.
Every one of you who likes or subscribes to our podcast makes my kids feel like we're famous. And to be honest, that's all I'm really doing this for.
I think one thing too is that we've kind of fallen into, and I know that others out there listening struggle with this as well, because it's kind of an issue in our society in general, but it's comparison. And I think that there are times, at least for me personally, and I don't know if you were exactly the same way, Raj, but I found myself comparing Fruitful, comparing my company to other companies that are nothing like what we do. We do, like Grain and Mortar, who we've mentioned a few times in this, great local firm, design and strategy firm similar to us. Like, they're probably more similar to us, and they got to be about our size, a little over 10 people, I think, and now they've gone down to like 3 or 4 people, and that would have been a good comparison to make. But I found myself comparing myself to big tech startup companies like Flywheel and stuff like that, or even good friends like Thrasher and stuff, where it's like the services we offer are just so different. The way that you scale these companies, and like those kind of companies, you need to scale because it's all about volume, and it's all about the product, and it's all about and it's different. We're a small team of very niched down creatives and strategists and craftsmen, and I feel like I really kind of was buying into a lot of kind of the lies of this is what success looks like. Success is having the big, expensive, fancy office and the furniture and having all the things and doing all these fun, team building events and really spending a lot of money as I look back over the last few years. And like, I look back on that now, and obviously we had a lot of fun at times, but like I cringe because it's like, that's not what real success is. And
not here,
and so,
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe somewhere else. That's a good point.
But I will say too, like those decisions were necessary for where we thought we were going. Like we were literally maxing out space in the other office that we had, and for the number of employees that we had. We had 11 employees when we moved downtown, and so it made a lot of sense to spend that kind of money because we thought we were going from 11 to 25 in the next few years, and. But what we found when we got there was, in terms of like that size of a company, that we were taken out of a lot of the work that we really loved, and I think that's a great bridge for us, kind of talking about, what's happened with our people, about making those decisions. So let's talk about that. You've mentioned it a few times that you were in managing more than in creative direction, and I want to be really, really clear above everything else. We love the teams that we've gotten to work with. Like we've worked with really, really wonderful people. In fact, my wife and I were driving down to one of the team Christmas parties one year, and she's like, there really are no jerks that work at Fruitful. And so we have loved the people who've worked for us. We love the team that we kind of wrapped up the larger team thing with in December. Really wonderful people. And at the same time, managing is not the reason that Ben or I got into this business. And to be honest, that was a really, really hard decision or a really hard thing to admit. Just to say, like, because we believe so much in other people flourishing. I mean, that's so much what we do for our clients, that we wanted to be the kind of people who could, who could make other people's design and strategy and marketing dreams come true, or even just their employment dreams come true. But that's not ultimately what ended up with us doing our best work. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Ben?
Yeah, we can get into it. I mean, Raj said it well. I mean, yeah, we've had the chance of leading and collaborating with some amazing creatives. And like I said before, we are still doing that in a contractor kind of capacity right now with some of them, which is great that they'd still want to work with us. But yeah, it's worth saying too, to kind of even just tell the story a little bit, that this wasn't a decision that we made really flippantly. We didn't pull the rug out from under people and, hey, see you never kind of a thing. This was something that it took some time, some deliberation, some planning. We were very transparent with our team. In fact, some have said that we're maybe a little bit too transparent when it comes to the financial, where we are financially with our team. But every month, the Fruitful will have a meeting. We call it the Fruit of the Month. And in that meeting, we deal with a lot of different things and topics and exercises as a team. But one of the things is we share where we're at financially. And, there were definitely some challenging spots, especially specifically last year. And like I also kind of hinted at, and I don't want to belabor it or go into great detail, but there was a large retainer client that we lost last year. So our hand was somewhat forced that we knew that we would have to make a decision if we weren't able to replace that. But at the same time, Raj and I had already been thinking about ways to simplify what we're doing to make a more profitable, sustainable company that we actually, want to work in. And so these things kind of played together, but we told our team as soon as we possibly could, even sooner than we initially thought, because, as we started, getting advice, I got some advice from my wife, and she's like, you need to tell people as soon as possible, just so people have more time to make their decisions. And so we told them several months before, we would have to transition them to contractors. And so we give them plenty of time, to interview, even while they're at work, at other jobs. We helped connect them to what connections we had to try to help find them other jobs if that was what they wanted to do. And so
they could make portfolios too.
Exactly. Yeah. We're, hosting a couple of their portfolios, actually, portfolio sites, and just trying to be as generous as we possibly could and try to help them through this. I know that's a really tough spot for them to be in, but I will say, one of the things that, when Raj says what an amazing team we had, I think one of the ways that we really saw that on display is the way that our team reacted to that news, with such understanding, grace, humility, kindness. And it was, and again, they were very aware of kind of where we were at and kind of in the ways in which our hand was somewhat forced. And so, I think there was a lot of understanding there that there was some of that was out of our control. But the way that they worked, even up until the last minute at the end of the year, still, getting all of the work done, working so hard, doing some of their best work, even while knowing that they wouldn't have a seat on the team in a full-time capacity first thing the next year. That was really remarkable to see. And I've talked to all of our employees, and like I said, we're working with some of them now, and it's just amazing, like how much I just love and respect those folks. And like I said, some of them have gone on and are doing amazing stuff other places. But as hard as that decision was, I do think it was the right decision for our team. And maybe this is a good space to talk about making hard decisions and why that is like kind of the worst part about being the leader of a company, but like it just needs to be done. And that's something that has definitely, I know I have grown in the last few years, because I've always historically been that guy that I don't want to make any tough decisions. I want to like delay that as much as possible and try to be the good guy. But I think through some of the things that you and I have been through in the last few years, I've learned to appreciate and understand the need for being able to make really, really tough decisions in the moment for the long-term good of yourself, your company, and for everyone working for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, right before we recorded, you were feeling a little sensitive about, our introduction being for your customers, your employees, and obviously coming off of this experience of saying goodbye to some folks or really changing the relationship with some folks. There's reason for us to kind of feel like, are we being fake? Are we being phony? And
yeah, can we talk about your employees when we don't technically have any?
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling.
And the thing is like that experience that you just described of us being really open with our employees for more than a year. I mean, it was at least 18 months before this all happened. We every month, even when things were a lot rosier financially, we hadn't experienced any of the kind of interest rate or inflation related disruptions that we experienced, that a lot of folks experienced at the end of 23 end of 22 beginning 23. We hadn't experienced a lot of that stuff yet, but we were proactively open with them about the financials, in part because that's one way of measuring the success of the company. And we talked both about top line revenue and about profitability, because we showed them what targets were. And, it's like, if you get down to a certain amount of profitability, call it, in our business, I would say probably even 10% is a spot that can be a little bit dangerous, because you lose one client, one deal, that can flip to 10% negative in a matter of time. And you might say, well, you're not running your business correctly or whatever. Every business is different. Every industry is different. And I know folks in our industry who run a 70% profit margin, which I have no idea how, but they have great digital products or something that are very affordable to deliver. We've never run anything like that. But when you start,
I think we're going to be like 65 by the end of the year, something like that. 70 is just insane.
$65 or
yeah, 65. Dude, if we're $65 profitable, that's going to be amazing. That is
we
going
will
to
have the best McDonald's Christmas party ever.
Man.
Will Grimace come and wear a Santa hat?
Grimace, the Hamburglar.
The Hamburglar.
Sorry.
Yeah,
we're just a bunch of nerds.
How the Hamburglars stole Christmas. How the Hamburglar stole the Christmas hamburger. Anyway, I'm done. Sorry. No, but the point being that we were open with them from the beginning. That was part of our core values, as part of our internal brand. And, everyone that I talked to about the transition thanked us for telling them as soon as we could, for giving them a couple of months to start making their plans, and for being open with them. Everybody saw it coming because they knew, I'm going to be really transparent. Between the Q4 22 and the end of 23, we lost about $450,000 in projected revenue. So there wasn't a negative 450 on our books. We couldn't, that's insane. But we lost $450,000 in projected revenue, and those were really unexpected. We're talking, teams that we'd worked with for a long time, or relationships that were really solid. And I have no ill will to the folks who had to make those decisions. Those were really tough decisions on their side. We had to make really tough decisions on our side, but we were built for a different revenue than we were going to get. And so our team could see that. You can't lose about a third of your projected revenue and go, yeah, I'm sure everything's going to be fine. Especially when you have some fixed costs like office space and those types of things. It became apparent to everybody that really, unless in a month or so here we get a massive 6-figure deal, then things are probably going to change. And the way we ended up looking at it was that if we had to lay off one person, then it would affect our ability to serve the clients that were left. And so it's like, okay, well, if we don't serve as many clients, then can that help solve that problem? It's like, no, then we'll have to get rid of 2 people. And it kind of just got to the point where it's like, either the clients or the remaining employees were really going to suffer in their experience. And so it really, truly was the best thing for our employees to go on to more of a freelance arrangement where they can go get money elsewhere. And we are still working with several of them. One, we may or may not include this in the episode, but I just want to shout out Bree Marsh, who became the senior graphic designer at the Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo, which I don't know if you remember this, Ben, but a few years ago, in one of our leadership meetings, I said, I want to make Fruitful a great place to be from. We recognize that not everybody's going to spend 20, 30, 40-year careers with us. In fact, that'd be very, very rare.
I don't know if I'm going to spend it. Yet to be seen.
And so, to have one of our employees who's massively talented go on to such a high profile place with a client that she's served before at another agency. And I've seen her kind of over the years watch and go, oh, that was my design, but they put a Santa hat on it or something, and just feel like there's different choices that she would make to get to go own and do those things. I'm so proud of her and so excited. And that's an opportunity that she probably wouldn't have sought if we hadn't made the change that we did. And I'm not, patting ourselves on the back for it, but it is to say that there's this myth that we are the best thing ever. Correct. That like your only option is to work for us. You don't have, that if we have to make a hard choice, that we're the bad guys. And I'm totally willing for people to have hard feelings against us, because that I get it. Like I've been laid off before. I've been transitioned to contractor before. Those things are hard, but in most of our cases, they're not bad, because none of those employees, and in fact, we had some of these conversations. None of those employees wanted to just serve clients just to keep the ship afloat. Everybody knows how stressful that is, because you end up making compromising decisions. Go, yeah, we can offer that product even though it's not our favorite thing to do. Or, we can get it done by that date because we really need to. And, you just make these little compromises that, or big compromises that undermine the experience for the employees and the contractors, and the clients. And having the bravery, the willingness to say, hey, we believe in more than that. We believe in a fruitful experience for ourselves, for our customers, for our employees. It actually is the right thing. And I think that there's a huge, huge difference between Silicon Valley layoffs that are, I've mentioned this on LinkedIn before, but the last time I saw a statistic on this, Google averages about $1 million in revenue per employee, and the average salary there is something like $200,000 or $300,000, which is a lot, which is great, for them. But it's like when they choose, or companies like that choose to lay off 1,000 people at a time, 5,000 people at a time, it's often, I'm not in those rooms, but it's often a lot more about share price for stockholders. And they're getting pressure from their board or from their stockholders to be more profitable, to get those dividends out, all those things. That's not what this is. We're a small business. We were in a situation where we wanted to make sure that we and our employees were not running on a treadmill that was not going anywhere, and would ultimately endanger the business, would ultimately not serve our customers well when, we've seen this before where marketing shops will close up their doors and not give hardly any notice to it's like, sorry guys, today was the last day. Hope your Facebook ads sort themselves out. We didn't want to be those people. We rather would make the hard decision, be really honest with people. That's why we're even recording an episode about it, than to just kind of go away in the dark of the night because we were too ashamed or too scared to say the right things out loud, to make the hard decision. And we love the folks that we wrapped up with. We wish them the best, and we love continuing to work with them. Like adding them back to our Slack this month was so joyful for me. I'm going, okay, it really was transition to contractor. We really did get to work with these folks again. It was a see you later, not goodbye for a lot of these folks. And that just made me so happy.
Oh, same. And that's a really good point, Raj, that with some of the the difficulties that we were looking at last year, it's like, I know there was a moment like where, one of the options would be, okay, are we just going to shut this thing down? We can't run it at this size. Like that was an option. And that's an option that a lot of people probably would have taken. Like, hey, we had a good run, shut it down. We'll go try to get jobs somewhere.
Split up the cash, sell the furniture.
Exactly. We did end up selling the furniture, a lot of it.
Some of
it,
yeah.
But like,
in my basement. You can't see it.
That's true. And I have a lot here as well. And all my Legos, I got too many Legos. But I think that, that's something that crossed the mind, and obviously that was an option. But like, Raj and I, we look each other in the eye, and it's like, well, if we did that, we'd probably the two of us would try to go start something else kind of like this. Yeah. The two of us. And Fruitful's a great name, a great brand, great recognition there. We have this history. It just kind of like, this is it's gonna be a reboot, but like we're not shutting this thing down, especially when like in so many ways we're at the top of our game, man. Like, I mean, we're creating the best work we've ever done. We are getting into such a great like rhythm. I think our processes, like you already mentioned, the clients that we're working with are amazing. Like there is a story of Fruitful that you look at us from a certain angle, and it's like you would not even believe that there could be any kind of uncertainty or difficulty going on, because it's just so amazing. And so really what we were trying to do is like, hey, how do we restructure Fruitful in such a way that kind of complements that or resembles that. Because like there is something really, really good going on here, but we don't need to try to be someone else. We don't need to compare ourselves to someone else. Let's actually be healthy, do our best work, be fulfilled ourselves, and serve our clients as best as humanly possible, and see what happens.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word restructure, because that is a word that businesses often use as business BS to hide that they were protecting shareholder value, or that they were squeezing the existing employees for more work, those kinds of things. And in our case of restructuring, like I said, we took all the risk on ourselves. We made it so that no one that worked for us had to fight for their lives, had to worry every day about if they were going to have a job tomorrow, or to do the work of two people because we laid off other people. And so we kind of reclaimed that word of restructure. And in doing so, you talked about, you wouldn't know that there's any trouble going on. Part of it's because there's not anymore. I mean, of course, we're still dependent on everybody, like, that we need to hit our sales plan or even somewhere close to it. But making the change that we made helped us go from only having a certain number of months cash on hand to having, double that, because our expenses got a lot lower really quickly. And of course, those were hard decisions. Those, in each one of those things, there were people who were affected by that. But as I mentioned too, it's like we were affected from the outside to the tune of a third of our projected revenue. And those were things that, instead of, like I said, passing them on to people by squeezing those people, that we chose to have an abundance mindset and to give them options in the process. Not everybody said that they would be open to working with us again, but they didn't have to. They weren't under any obligation of us saying, well, we're switching you to part-time or anything like that. It was, hey, if you're willing to accept this new arrangement, great. Otherwise, we are supporting you with helping you build portfolios, helping you, giving you time to go on interviews, all those things. And I'm just so admiring of the folks that we worked with, because they handled all of that so well and they responded so well. And I'm not afraid at all to communicate with those people after the fact, because it was such a wonderful experience wrapping up with them and then restarting with several of them on some new projects.
Yeah. Well said, Raj. Well said.
So let's talk about future a little bit. Like what does the future of Fruitful look like as we kind of wrap up here? I would just be curious to hear from your perspective, like, what are you excited about? And what are you maybe concerned about? Yeah,
good. I am everyone asks me, like, as the word has gotten out, and the word has started to get out, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to have this episode, is like get ahead of this a little bit and try to control the narrative to whatever degree, kind of give our side of the story. Like, how are you doing? How are you doing? How's as if, my life is coming to an end or something. But really, I'm very hopeful, very hopeful. I'm very excited. It's maybe no surprise to you, but like I got into this because I'm a creative. I'm a designer. I love to, Raj knows, like, the stuff that I, flirt with is like leaving and starting just a design and illustration practice of just, like a freelancer. And so the fact that I get to do that again and work on logos and illustrations and website stuff and icons, like this is the stuff that I love. And so personally, I'm excited about the work. But then more from the business side, very excited about just things being simpler, things being more focused, less things going on. I think we've proven that we can do a lot of things. We can manage a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of services. But to be honest with you, I think it was very stressful for me and you, and even for our team. I think back on some of the conversations I was having towards the end with some of our team is like, we were doing too many things that they weren't truly enjoying what they were doing. And I hope for them that they're able to focus more and on just fewer things, and also just that weight of like, because you're doing so many things and because your expenses are so high and because your team has grown so much that you need more and bigger projects, longer term projects all the time. That weight was very crushing. And so the fact that it's like, we've really simplified things. We've really restructured things in such a way that we don't need to always be on this like frantic, edge of needing these like huge sales in order to sustain the operation. Obviously we still need sales. We still need clients. We need brand sprints. We want to continue to, fill out our, our roster there. But like that pressure, to like just get up in the morning and to just work and design and hop on a call with a client, like that's great. That feels like what I started Fruitful to do, and that I get to do it with you, my business partner that completes me, like strategy, design, we go in there, we get things done. I don't know. I feel very excited about that, but I have had to say I have had to just kind of die to some of the external trappings of success. Like I told Raj this, but when I first told my kids that this was happening, specifically, hey, we're going to have to get out of our office space. It sounded like failure to my kids. I think they saw like, man, Dad has this cool, swanky downtown, tech headquarters kind of office space full of, Legos and Nerf guns. And like, that was success to them. And they loved going there. And, there was something bittersweet about getting out of that. But the whole time I can't help but think of like how expensive that office was and how much money we're going to be saving, of our money that we're going to be saving every month. And when I say our, I'm talking about for our families. Yeah. It's no secret. Raj and I have not gotten rich off of this thing. So if any of you are not yet. And so that's the other thing that always was in my mind was like, hey, and I've told Raj this as well. It's like, if it was crazy, if it was frantic, if it was, all these different things we were doing, but you know what? It was working and we were able to hit all of our goals and we were getting rich off this thing. And it was just like such a, maybe we'd keep that thing going, but it wasn't working the way that it should have to continue to sustain that. And so it's like, okay, if this is not working, why are we continuing to do this every year and stressing us and everyone else out? How can we simplify it? And so to me, the word is simplicity. I think just really simplifying things to a point where we can just do things so well and really deliver on our promises, and personally ensure them as well. And not just like oh yeah, so-and-so is going to do that for you. It's like, I'm going to do that for you. And if this thing fails, it's because we are putting it all on the line, but there's something like very, I don't know, very honest about that too, that I like. It's like, I feel like it's keeping me more honest and more invested in my work too, in a good way. So how about you, Raj?
Yeah.
For the future?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, kind of same thing of concerns as used. Like, we are taking on the risk of making sure that we have a brand sprint scheduled every month. I am really, really thankful that, there's 3 or 4 folks who have lined up for future months. They have not signed yet. So if you want to get in, there's still room. But I mean, it's like people have been responding really, really well to this offering. And the other thing too is that, with completely changing our structure here, if we have months that are down, like I said, we can either go on vacation, or you and I can get scrappy and make more podcasts, or, even do some pro bono work, the stuff that we love to do that, helps get the word out in a way that's better than paying Zuckerberg for ads, And so that's kind of what I'm concerned about, but I'm also really hopeful in that concern. As far as, what I'm excited about, I'd say a couple things. One is that I love the work that I'm doing right now. I think we should probably do a whole episode about the difference between leading and managing. I feel like we've done really well leading creative teams over the years. I don't know if everybody who's ever worked for us would say that, but
probably not.
But I know for sure that I wouldn't say that we've done really great managing creative people, or even people in general. And what I would describe that difference as is that leading is giving people direction, like setting the vision for them, showing them how to get there. Managing is giving them structure. And so it's benefits and what time do we get to the office and how do we respond to emails and all of those things for a creative brain, for creative brains like ours, those things are exhausting.
I hate that stuff. I love people, but managing people, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, it's like it's funny because we have such a great experience working with great video partners who have their own businesses like Rend and Triarch. And we love working with developers like Plum. And so whenever we work with contractors, we lead creative teams really well. But when we had employees, I always felt like I was disappointing them. And it was because I hadn't really figured out the difference between giving them direction and giving them structure. And structure is hard enough for myself, just like, it's creative people making sure that your calendar is up to date and all those things. And I've really kind of ground myself into discipline with those things over the years. And it's hard to not have that expectation on other people.
We're in that tricky spot too, Raj, like you mentioned, where like we weren't quite big enough to be able to hire the people to create and maintain.
We tried.
We tried. But
there were people who said no to us that we would have loved to bring in to fix those things.
Right.
But
that was like that tricky thing where it's like, we weren't quite big enough to really be able to like have all of that. And so we were trying to figure it out on our own. And it's just challenging when again, that's just not the way you're wired.
So I love the work that I'm doing. I'm really excited about that work. Like I said, I think this is the stuff that'll keep me going for another 10 plus years in this business, as long as, the robots don't take over or whatever. But, and then the other thing I'm excited about is that it gives us just a little bit more margin to be creative people. And, I've got my book coming out next month. And there will be a link in the bio or the podcast description here for you to pre-order it. But it's like it's given us a little bit of peace and space back. Even in my week, I mean, I had, I think it was an average of 4 meetings a week canceled because we weren't doing team meetings anymore. Because you and I are the team. We do have.
There's no internal meetings hardly.
We have fractional project manager Michelle, who's amazing. We appreciate her being on board, and we still have Casey, my executive assistant, who is also amazing. But we don't have multiple team meetings every week, in part because we're not having both staff meetings and sales meetings and project update meetings and leadership meetings, all those things. And so it's the purest version of this work that honestly in the entire history of this company that I've been a part of, like since 2017 and contracting in 2015, 2016 before that, this is the purest version of my work that I've done. And I think it's going to show in the results. I think we're already seeing that with what people are experiencing, the speed we're able to bring to that, and without sacrificing one, iota of quality, but in fact going up in quality at a greater speed. I'm so excited about that. I'm hopping on a plane to go to Chicago this week to meet with some folks. It is a really, really fun version of this business, and the clients are getting so much out of it. And that has right-sized the Fruitful equation for me and for our customers. And I think that's the real key to success here.
Raj, I think that's a great note to end on. Thanks for helping me unpack this new chapter, the beginning of this new chapter in Fruitful's story, the story of our clients. And we're excited to keep moving things forward this year, and we're excited to continue to help you grow something good in 2024. Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it.
If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design.
But until next time, don't forget to grow something good.